Okay, I have an idea, Richie. There's a way to salvage this podcast.
What, this specific episode or just the whole thing?
This specific episode.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you something now.
Okay.
But all of this I will put in the beginning of the podcast before the intro.
Okay.
I would like to ask you, in 140 characters or less, to summarize the Dark Beasts.
The Dark Beasts are a strain of beasts that exist, so as far as we can gather, in Lauren. But there are two examples of Dark Beasts that have either gotten out of Lauren or people have, through messing around with Lauren, turned into Lauren-style beasts in Yana. And the three things that we're calling Dark Beasts, there is Dark Beast Pal, who is a very large animated skeleton, shoots lightning.
Mm-hmm.
Dark Beast Pal can also be encountered as something just called the Lauren Dark Beast. So presumably Dark Beast Pal is a Lauren Dark Beast who is called Pal. There is the Abhorrent Beast that is a smaller sort of like version of the Bloodletting Beast. It's like a big kind of hairy dude who can has similar traits to Pal in that they can shoot electricity, and on an early version of the game that is just called the Lauren Dark Beast as well. And there's also the Silver Beast, explicitly called the Lauren Silver Beast, if you encounter it in the Chalice dungeons. That is similar sort of, I guess, to Pal. It's starts off as a biped, it becomes a quadruped at half health. And it has the same sort of arcing lightning across its body, so you get the impression that Dark Beast Pal is just a really big skeleton of a Silver Beast. Also, Irreverent Izzy made a weapon out of Dark Beast bones that allowed them to partially turn into a beast. And Archibald was a guy who was obsessed with the Dark Beasts, and he ran a group of hunters called the Spark Hunters, and they set about creating all these sort of electricity-based weapons and tools. But they did them through trying to copy kind of how the sparks of Dark Beasts worked. So they weren't sort of playing around with lightning like Benjamin Franklin or something. They were going and they were looking at Dark Beasts and thinking, like, how do these things create lightning?
Okay. Thank you, Richie. Now, again, in 100 characters or less, briefly, tell me everything you know about Archibald with in-game and cut content.
Archibald was the leader of the Spark Hunters.
Richie?
Yeah.
With a little enthusiasm. Please.
Archibald was the leader of the Spark Hunters, he's referred to as a heretic of the workshop, so he was like a weird outcast guy. And they made electricity-based weapons in the church workshop. And that's really all you know about him. He just is responsible for all these electricity-based things. And that, again, he got the idea from Dark Beasts. He was trying to mimic how their bodies worked. The cut stuff is weird because there is a cut character called Archibald who had a pretty significant role, but the Archibald character who was cut out is very clearly not the same Archibald. Like, he's just another guy who's called Archibald. And from what we've heard, he is a guy who all we have is his dialogue, and it was never translated into English. So from what he's basically just a guy who asks you to bring him blood gems. And he says something like, "Give me the blood gems and I'll use it to make you stronger." It's not exactly clear what he does. He just takes blood gems from you and then he says he'll make you stronger. It's not immediately clear what that means. Does it mean that he leveled you up? Does it mean that he reinforced your weapons? Does it mean that he gave you some kind of other bonus? We don't know. And the way he talks, there's a lot of references to him sort of like licking his lips and sort of salivating.
Mm-hmm.
So we're wondering if maybe he ate the blood gems. He was like a vampire.
Yeah.
So he wanted to like chow down on any blood gems you had. But again, like this is so like it's cut, but it was cut so early on that it's just a block of text. So it's like something that they played around with for a bit and abandoned, but they liked the name Archibald.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And one last question.
Mm-hmm.
Can you briefly tell me about the Lauren Sparky Windy stuff?
Well, if you go to Lauren, there are sparks and wind everywhere, even though it's indoors. So I guess it's very drafty in Lauren. I don't know where the lightning is coming from.
Okay. So I guess we answered the three main questions, right? Dark Beast, Archibald, Sparky Windy stuff.
I guess.
So you heard this now in the beginning of the podcast, before the intro, and that's basically all the information that we have. If you wish to do so, you can continue listening to the podcast which we recorded in the beginning of this, but it adds absolutely nothing to the information that you just heard, and it's a waste of time.
My eyes are just gradually defocusing as I drift off into slumber.
Yeah, and but some people seem to like it. It helps them, like if they have a long ride to work or whatever, having some nonsensical background noise. It's nice.
I've heard a lot of that, actually, yeah.
Yeah. So if you're just here for the information, that's it. It's done. You can go home now.
We mean you can go home. They haven't come to see this.
No, I said go home.
I think they've already turned off at this point. Hi, Sin.
How are you today?
Well, we just finished recording about Bergenworth.
Ah, cool. So do you know what that means?
Go on.
That this will be episode 38. Woo!
Wow.
Yeah, two numbers, 2 episodes in a row. I'm very proud of us.
We're going to have the 38th episode spectacular.
Okay, so today our topic is inspired by somebody from Reddit.
Yeah?
Somebody named Reprabus asked us if we could make an episode on Dark Beasts and Archibald and Lawrence.
I can't hear you. You cut out.
Oh no.
Like an old buzz. Hang on.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to quit. Hello?
Hello?
Oh, good, we're working. Okay. I can hear you. Good, yeah.
Do you think this interference was caused by either a Dark Beast or Archibald?
Well, the Dark Beasts do create, like, electricity around them. So it's possible they walk by the router or something.
So I don't know how much of this you heard, but we're gonna make an episode on Dark Beasts and Archibald and Lawrence Sparkly Windy stuff.
Lawrence Sparkly Windy stuff.
Lawrence Sparky Windy stuff.
They're sparkly as well as sparky.
Okay. So before we go on, I just want you to attest before people start complaining. I was not eating during the previous podcast.
No.
And we recorded it early in the morning for me.
Yeah. If you were in my shoes, you would appreciate that there was almost 3 hours of podcasting uninterrupted by chewing until this point.
Yeah, and I didn't have time to eat because it's a Saturday, and we recorded at like 8 a.m. my time.
Yeah.
So it was like, up, go, coffee, go, record. Like,
yeah.
So I am allowed this, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Richie.
Yes.
I will copy the topic to you.
Okay.
Tell us everything you know about this topic.
Dark Beasts and Archibald and Lauren sparky windy stuff.
Yeah.
Well, should we begin with the Dark Beasts?
Okay. Go.
Okay. Well, the first Dark Beast you encounter, probably, is Dark Beast Parl.
Uh-huh.
And they live in... they're dead, I guess. This is where it gets very confusing, because... Okay, so the thing about the Beast Claw weapon is that it says that it's made from the bones of an undead Dark Beast.
Mm-hmm.
And that the bones that the claw is made of are still alive. So there's like something living within the bones. And when you encounter Dark Beast Parl, Parl is like dead. He's a skeleton with just bits of fur kind of stuck to him. And then when you walk into the arena, the skeleton kind of comes back to life again. So it's immediately off the bat quite odd because like this thing is like it is dead, it has come back to life again. Which is, yeah, it's it's just sort of a strange thing that like there's just I guess a species of beast that just can't die. Its skeleton just comes back to life again. Although again, like when you encounter the bloodletting beast in its second form, like its head is gone. Its body is still going, powered by basically like it's just a host of these maggots that are making it move around. So I guess maybe the idea behind the Dark Beasts is that they're able to just their lust for blood keeps them going after death. Because Parl is one of not many people know this because it doesn't make a great deal of sense, so most people don't try it. But Parl will follow pungent blood cocktails if you throw them. It's basically just him and the blood-starved beasts that do it. And it's really odd, because, like, there are other bosses you'd think, like Gascoigne or the Cleric Beast or Amelia or Ludwig or whatever, they would follow blood cocktails, but they don't. It is, but for some reason Dark Beast Parl does.
Do you think Dark Beast Parl was always a boss?
Butchimus was always a boss.
Like, was it an NPC at some point or something?
But the NPC is just a gigantic, like, skeleton dog. Like, hello, Hunter.
Okay.
I can tell you
Richie,
something.
No, I have to defend myself against your slanderous attitude.
Can you have a slanderous attitude? Doesn't there have to be an actual statement?
You know what? First, I'll ask Nick right now.
Good.
Hi, Nick. I just accused Richie of having a slanderous attitude, but now he tells me that's not a thing. How wrong is he? Okay.
Okay.
In my defense, Patches is a spider.
Yeah.
The beggar is some sort of a beast. So why couldn't Parl be an NPC?
Well, as I was about to say, this is going to come up multiple times, I guess. I just did a playthrough of the whole game on 1.0. So I just played it from disk without patching anything. And you encounter a Dark Beast boss in Lower Lauren that's just called the Lauren Dark Beast. But if you play on 1.0, that boss is just called Dark Beast Parl. So I'm wondering if Dark Beast Parl wasn't always supposed to be in Old Yharnam, that sort of Old Yharnam Yahogul transition area. They may have been put there later on.
Oh.
Yeah, because it looks like there's just one version of that in 1.0, and then they don't divide it into Lauren Dark Beast and Dark Beast Parl until later on. And confusingly, on 1.0, there's a boss called the Abhorrent Beast. That on 1.0 is called the Lauren Dark Beast. So what the Lauren Dark Beast was changed in a patch. So maybe they're both the Lauren Dark Beast. They're similar, I guess. They're both electric.
I had something I wanted to ask you.
Mhm.
Come on, brain. You can do this.
Is it about the Spark Hunters?
No! Oh, shut the fuck up!
That was quite aggressive.
Well, for those who don't know, Richie is low-key bullying me right now, okay? To you guys.
No,
you see,
I'm not.
this is the problem. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. This is the problem. People watching this are like, well, Sin just went crazy. No, because when we first started recording, and you can check the first Menses podcast, I didn't know what the Spark Hunter badge was, or something along those lines. And so
I don't remember it.
Yeah, you do. And then this is Richie's low-key bullying reminding me of how casual I am.
I think there's a degree of projection going on here. Because I had completely forgotten all of that. You should just not have said anything.
Yeah, okay, no, what I wanted to say was, you played the game unpatched?
Yes.
Was patches still there?
Oh. Yes. Yes, he was.
So it was patched?
I did call my character Patchless, and tried to make them look a bit like patches.
Aw, that's really cute. So I just scrolled back a little to the previous section, and there's a lot of very crazy waves. My boyfriend is going to have a lot of fun editing out this audio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, and another reason I asked you if it was an NPC is because, I don't know, I just got a feeling that it could be someone you could talk to. You know?
What, Dark Beast Pal?
Yeah. You could grab a beer with them or something.
Doesn't have a throat. It wouldn't work. It just leak out the bottom of his jaw.
Yeah. Okay.
So now that you've gotten that out of your system, was your question about the Spark Hunters?
I didn't have a question about the Spark Hunters. My question was literally if you played the game patched, and you're like, no, and I'm like, what about patches?
It took you to force yourself to remember an extremely basic pun.
Yeah.
It's like you're going, hang on, it's coming. Think about it for a second. I know you are, but what am I? Checkmate.
Okay. So is there anything else you can tell us about Parl?
Well, Parl is, like I said, he is undead. He is literally just a pile of bones.
You keep saying he, but I always picture Parl as a she.
Okay, we'll say she.
No, but is there
to me, the name Parl just sounds like a male name, but it's not a real name at all. So, to me, it sounds like Paul.
Really? Because to me, it sounds like Pearl. And I'm I guess I associate pearls with, something like I'd wear or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Garnet, amethyst, and Pearl.
What's that?
Anyway,
No.
Pearl.
What was that?
It's the opening of Steven Universe. Garnet, amethyst, and Pearl.
Oh, Steven Universe. That's adventure game type, adventure deal, adventure thing type.
Are you okay?
I'm trying to remember the adventure thing name, and my brain is
Adventure
not
Time.
Yeah, Adventure Time. My
Yeah.
brain was like not catching up with me. It's because I only had one snack today. It was the snack that I just had, and it's already 11:21 a.m. And this is only my second cup of coffee, so this is like a slow start, you know?
So back to Dark Beast Pal. Dark Beast Pal, when encountered, is just a... Well, okay, we'll talk about how you encounter Pal.
Mhm.
Because you... we'll just assume you were captured in this one. You don't have to be captured, but...
Mhm.
Assume you're captured and you're taken to the Hypergean jail. There's
Mhm.
basically two paths out of it. If you take the low one, there's even more cells with all these Yarnamites in it who have been captured and are going to be sacrificed in the ritual. If you run to the very back of the room, there's these bars that have been bent out of shape. And then through the bars being bent out of shape, there is a tunnel that's been very crudely dug through the wall that leads out of the jail. But as you're leaving the jail, you go down a pathway and you come to this gigantic pile of bones and hair that's just lying in a courtyard, and it looks like it's dead. And then when you enter the arena, the bones suddenly rise up and come to life as this skeletal beast that the first thing it will do is it will sort of howl and charge up, and all these sparks start arcing across its body, and it's you have to fight this skeleton creature that's got all this electricity arcing all over it.
Mhm. Richie,
Yeah.
could I use Parl to charge my phone?
Well, this is kind of what Archibald ends up doing.
Charging his phone?
Well, what happens is that throughout your investigations in Yahogul, you find a lot of things that are electrical in some way. Like you find the tonitrus, find the tiny tonitrus, you find a whole lot of bolt paper. And when you defeat Parl, you get a thing called the Spark Hunter badge. And the Spark Hunter badge specifically says that, like, there was a group of hunters called the Spark Hunters, and they were led by a guy called Archibald. And he was obsessed with the sparks that emanated from the hides of the dark beasts. And that his goal was to, like, try to replicate that effect on weapons. And his masterpiece is the tonitrus, which is he's basically invented this machine that creates like a mace that creates electricity in the same way that a dark beast does. You wouldn't initially think it to look at it, but the way that the lightning on his weapons works is actually inspired by these monsters. It's not like he was playing around in his lab trying to come up with, like, playing around with electricity. He was actually trying to mimic a living creature. And it says also that Archibald's methodology is very similar to what Bergenworth were doing. And that's a really odd line. It can be read in a lot of different ways, but I think the idea is that it says methodology similar to Bergenworth, that Archibald was going to the Chalice Dungeons and he was learning about the Dark Beasts that way. Because I don't like other methodologies of Bergenworth, I don't think make a great deal of sense. Like, Archibald doesn't seem to have been into, like, meditation or anything like that. So I think he was going into the Chalice Dungeons and, like, studying the beasts there, and maybe, like, bringing the bodies back to the surface and studying them. In the same way that Bergenworth were bringing back, like, phantasms and red jelly and things from the chalices, Archibald might have been bringing back dark beasts. Or, like, bits and pieces of dark beasts. Because then you've got the beast claw weapon. The beast claw weapon specifies, like, this weapon is made from the bones of a dark beast. So it's not clear, like, who Irreverent Izzy was allied with. I mean, not about been allied with anyone. But Izzy at least had access to, like, the body of a dark beast at some point to make their weapon with.
Mm-hmm. Richie?
Yeah?
How dare you burp on this podcast?
Or I'll chew instead.
Go on.
Well, you have to snack. I have to stay awake. We're coming on. It's like 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, the bodies of dark beasts have been an object of study for some time. And I think the Bolt paper says the same thing. I'll just check. Yeah, it says that Archibald invented the Bolt paper as well. Yeah, and it says, like, the Bolt paper is Archibald artificially recreating the sparks that are on the hides of dark beasts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So basically, Archibald is studying dark beasts in the same way that, like, Willem and Bergenworth were studying phantasms and Great One.
I'm having such a déjà vu right now. Did we talk about this before?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I'm just trying to remember what podcast, if any. But okay, go on. Keep interrupting you.
That's all right.
Yeah. It's just that I only had my 1.5 cup of coffee. I'm not very concentrated. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's so this brings, like, the Paul question, which is like, is Paul a Spark Hunter? Because what happens is when you defeat Paul, you get a thing called the Spark Hunter badge that says, like, this is a badge that was given by Archibald to Archibald's friends.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, is the implication there that Paul is a Spark Hunter who successfully, ? Turned into a dark beast? Or is Paul just a dark beast that they were studying in Yahugul?
What do you think the answer is?
I don't know.
Okay, sometimes at my work, I have to ask yes or no questions.
Yeah.
Or questions where you have to pick an option. So, what are you leaning more toward?
Well, the thing is, like I mentioned before, that the way you get to Paul is you go through this tunnel that's been dug.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very crude tunnel that's been dug out of the cell. And one of the early, like, things people were saying was, oh, well, was Paul in the cell, and then Paul tunneled out of, like, after transforming, tunneled out of the cell, and that's why there's this really rough tunnel, like, tunneled out of the cell, got into the area outside, and then collapsed. But, like, you could also say, well, maybe people try to escape the jail, and Menses just leave Paul there to just finish them off as they're escaping, as, like, kind of like a guard dog. And then maybe Paul, like, just killed the Spark Hunter, and that's why Paul's got the badge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you're leaning more toward Parl is just Parl and not a hunter who.
Well, no, I think they might be a hunter just because they have a name, because they're called Dark Beast Parl, which implies, like, yeah, someone at some point they're called Parl. It's not like when you can encounter that boss in the Chalice dungeons and they're just called the Lauren Dark Beast.
Mm-hmm.
So the game, like, again, I was saying, like, on 1.0 it doesn't do this, but subsequently it does draw, like, there's a distinction between a Dark Beast and Dark Beast Parl. Like, Dark Beast Parl is an individual creature. The fact that they have a name at all. Like, most of the bosses don't have names. Like, the Cleric Beast doesn't.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. The Blood-starved Beast, Bloodletting Beast, they don't have names. But Parl, they bother actually giving a name to, so.
So do you think Parl was a bigger character at some point? Is Lance gonna find more files about it?
But Lance found a whole lot of Archibald stuff. Oh no, SanaDSK found a whole lot of Archibald stuff, didn't it? But there was a different Archibald.
Oh yeah, that's blocked out of my mind.
Yeah, because you had a bit too much fun.
Oh god. So if anybody's wondering what we're talking about, I'll link it in the comments. Sana and I did a podcast on his channel where we had a little too much fun, which resulted in a lot of mean comments. Mostly about me, though, on his channel,
it's
but it
true,
was
yeah.
mostly directed toward me. So, check it out. Yeah. I was traumatized for like a week. I forgot how toxic the internet can be. I forgot I'm not allowed to laugh or experience joy in life.
There.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but about Parl, did Lance or Sana or anyone find anything more about her?
Don't think so. Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Well, I predict, using my gaming psychic ability,
Yep.
that they will. Mhm.
Okay.
There's more to Parl than meets the eye.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know who designed Pal?
I'm gonna ask the spirits.
Okay. Is the spirits another name for Google? Because I can hear you typing.
Let's see. The spirits tell me that Parl is the third oldest settlement in South Africa. Yeah, who designed Parl?
Pal was designed entirely by Miyazaki.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He said so in the art book that like everyone on the team would sort of like work together on stuff, but he said like I'm the director and I want there to be one boss that's just my input. So he is entirely responsible for Pal. Although weirdly, like the Pal art doesn't show Pal with the sparks. So I'm wondering if the sparks were added later on.
What do you mean? It does, though. Doesn't it?
I've seen him without them.
Because, okay, I'll show you.
Oh, no. I think I'm thinking of the Abhorrent Beast.
No, you're like half right. Like some art, I think, shows without sparks and some with. You see?
Yeah.
So it's up to interpretation.
Yeah. I know the Abhorrent Beast art doesn't show it with sparks.
Okay. So is Miyazaki also an artist?
No, he didn't like draw it. He like worked with the designer on creating like the character.
Okay. Do you think he did a good job?
Yeah, Paul's pretty cool.
I like how it's like a mix of a human and an animal. It's like weird.
Well, it's got that sort of flat face that a lot of the beasts in Old Yarnum have.
Mm-hmm.
There's beasts that have very flat faces, and then there's beasts that have the very long, like wolf-like snout. And Pal is kind of the ones with the flatter faces. I think like they affect you differently because they look more human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this reminds me of. Do you remember Alien? One of the aliens. I don't know if it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10. Where I think the queen gives birth to this weird alien.
Yeah, that's Alien Resurrection.
That's what Parl is reminding me of right now.
Yeah.
And also on that picture, if you look in the upper left corner, one of the skull looks like Madman's Knowledge a little bit.
Yeah.
Don't you think? Like, because the hair is like up and the skull is there.
Yeah.
So maybe that means that she was a hunter at some point.
Yeah. I just found a thing that's like Pal looks like a sloth.
Like a sloth?
Yeah, I don't know what to say.
Australian sloth? Is that what sloths look like where you're from?
We don't have sloths.
Is this like a drop sloth? Like a drop panda?
A drop sloth would just land on you and just like go to sleep.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. No, yeah, like the pose or whatever, the limbs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if they had like a sloth boss in Dark Souls and you just had to like run slightly farther away and it wouldn't be able to do anything? Just go to sleep.
Didn't we talk about this? When did we? I feel like this is giving me.
Yeah, probably because nothing has any kind of structure to it.
I feel like I'm having so many flashbacks during this episode. I think the Parl thing, I'm getting the flashback to the very first Menses thing we did.
Yeah.
I'm sure we talked about Carl then. And, okay, no, the sloth thing it reminds me of a video. It's actually the first time we mentioned the Snag Covenant, and it's on Patreon.
Yep.
On the highest of tiers, of course.
Jesus.
And yeah, that's what it reminds me of. Like, you were suggesting that if I were a boss or something, if I were a Covenant leader, I would just, like, sleep, and then you'd have to bring me snacks so I move over so you can pass. Okay. Yeah. All right. What else you gotta say, Richie? So we covered Dark Beasts.
No, there's other, like, there's the Silver Beasts and the Abhorrent Beast.
But no, that's not Dark Beasts, is it?
Well, okay, here's the thing. A Dark Beast is like, if you look at a Silver Beast and a Dark Beast just looks like a bigger version of a Silver Beast. And the Silver Beasts are called the Lauren Silver Beast. So I think the idea is that, like, in... No, that, like, in Yana, you've got, like, there's the skirt...
What? I'm not with it today, Richie. You were talking, and I lost you after the first Dark Beast.
Okay. In Lauren, right, there's the Silver Beasts and the Dark Beasts, right. So that, to me, it's kind of like in Old Yharnam, where you've got, like, the Scourge Beasts, with, like, the werewolf things. And then you've got the Cleric Beast that's, like, a bigger version of that.
Mm-hmm.
So in Lauren, you have the Silver Beasts, and then you have a bigger version of the Silver Beast that's the Dark Beast.
Oh, okay.
Because if you look at them, like, they look kind of similar, like, they both have the same, like, flat kind of face to them. Okay. They both generate lightning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what did we not talk about yet?
Well, they're like connected. Like the electricity is also produced by the Silver Beasts, and also like the way that Dark Beast's written in Japanese, you could read it as Black Beast if you wanted. So it's almost like black and silver variants of the same beast.
Black and silver, black and silver, black and silver, black and silver.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and like Old Yharnam is like it's no sorry, Yahagul, where the Spark Hunters hung out, is like it's weirdly kind of adjacent to Lauren in a sense, because you go through like Mikolash is projecting from Yahagul to the Nightmare of Mensis, which is like pretty obviously like leftover bits of Lauren. So, like, I'm not entirely sure, like, the logistics of it, but maybe you would have been able to go to Lauren from Yahagul at some point, which might explain why there's Dark Beast and Silver Beast stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Anything else?
I don't know, well, we never really see what Paul looked like with skin. Because remember, Paul is like a skeleton, so maybe when Paul had flesh, they looked like a Silver Beast more.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah. And also the Silver Beasts have like very long, like bone sort of claws they can extend and retract, and it reminds me a bit of the Beast Claw. Because the Beast Claw is supposed to... It's confusing because the Beast Claw is supposed to... It says it's from a Dark Beast, but... I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But there's the Abhorrent Beast. Going to talk about the Abhorrent Beast, or is that another podcast?
Is it a Dark Beast?
I'm going to say it is.
Okay, then let's talk about the Abhorrent Beast.
Okay. The Abhorrent Beast is probably known to most people as the thing that the beggar turns into.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like a smaller version of the Bloodletting Beast. It's got sparks going over its fur like the Dark Beast does, and it can do this sort of like a storm attack. It throws sort of wind at you And that's what is known as to most people, but if you find it in the Chalice dungeons, it's called the Abhorrent Beast. It's got a specific name. And if you play the game unpatched in the Chalice dungeons, it's called the Lauren Dark Beast. So that's what I meant about it being slightly confusing, because it's like when you use the Beast's Claw, your Beast hand doesn't look like the hand of the Dark Beast. Doesn't look like Parl's hand. And if you combine that with Beast's Embrace, like, you don't look anything like a Dark Beast, but you do look more like the Abhorrent Beast, because the Abhorrent Beast is one of those beasts that doesn't look... It looks more like just sort of like a big gorilla thing. Similar to the Bloodletting Beast, where it's just like a really, really massive, like, hairy guy with a huge torso. More so than a wolf. And they also hang out in Lauren.
Hmm.
So yeah, they are like implied to be like the Silver Beast, the Dark Beast, and the Abhorrent Beast are implied to be like the same kind of thing. They're like offshoots of the same thing. I guess like because one of the things the game does is it contrasts Yharnam with Lauren. So if you say like in Yharnam you have like the Scourge, because also Lauren already has Beast Patience in it. So you say like in Lauren you've got in Yharnam you have like Silver Beasts, you have like the Cleric Beast big things, and you've got people like Gascoigne who are like, it's a beast but still kind of roughly humanoid. And then in Lauren you've got like the Silver Beasts, you've got things like Parl, and then you've got the Abhorrent Beast that would be like the sort of more humanoid kind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they seem obsessed with Dark Beasts actually, because like again, we talked about Irreverent Izzy before. Irreverent Izzy makes their Beast Claw from the bones of a Dark Beast, but they're not, from what we can tell, working with the Spark Hunters. So I guess like people were just fucking around with Dark Beasts for a while. It may actually, what it might be, I don't know if this is intentional, but it might be that because everything that went wrong with Lauren's already happened, people were going to research the ruins of Lauren to figure out how to prevent what was going on in Yharnam. Because they could look at like the aftermath of Lauren, and maybe they were just like researching the beasts there before there was a beast problem in Yharnam.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Are you still there?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking.
Yeah, you're not feeling it today, are you?
Yeah. It's just
Yeah.
so many beasts, so confusing. Also, we recorded for like 2.5 hours before this, and it took a lot of mental energy to do so.
I understand.
Yeah. Takes a lot of mental energy to talk to you, Richie. Even my bullying is subpar.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Is that all about the Dark Beasts?
Well, we can summarize if you want.
Okay, let's summarize. Let's do that.
You're gonna have
Summarize
real fun editing this, because it's just like me getting halfway through something and you're going, what?
Yeah.
Okay, so Dark Beasts, we're gonna like collapse the three of them and say that. Although they also mention Lauren's sparkly stuff, because if you go to Lauren has lightning arcing everywhere, like just randomly.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of like in the fishing hamlet?
No, because that has a cause, because that's like the fish people are calling the lightning down. If you go to Lauren, like, it can't hurt you or anything. You'll just see like sparks shoot across a room. It's like an environmental effect.
What if it's the fish people and the lightning goes all the way to Lauren?
Well, we can't prove it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, so wait, okay, before you sum up, I guess I'll ask you to sum up all the dark beasts in the end, or whatever. The sparky, windy stuff. Talk about that.
We just did. Because, like, Lauren is like, if you go there, it is... The weird thing about Lauren is it's mostly underground, but it's still windy. So you see sand blowing everywhere, and you see lightning arcs, like, shooting through the sky. Not through the sky, through just, like, the air. Like, you'll just see lightning arc across a room. And Lauren is, like, probably the first chalice where you kind of go technically outside, because it has these set pieces where there's, like, a bridge across a chasm. So you'll walk out, like, you'll go, it's, if you're following the chalices in order, then Lauren's probably the first one where you'll step out and realize you're not in a tunnel anymore. Like, you're actually in like a chasm, and you can see there's, like, other bridges, and it stretches off into the distance, but you can't go there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Lauren is, like, it talks about Lauren being lost to the sand. So I think the idea is it's, like, it's so confusing because they never really explain how this works, but, like, presumably with Lauren you're going, like, somewhere that is really far away. Like another, like, because Yharnam is very, very, like, it's not a desert at all. It's the opposite. It's, like, it's near the sea. It's, like, quite sort of damp, cold place. So presumably with Lauren, however the hell it works, you're, like, going, like, halfway around the world or something. And you're going to this, like, desert place that collapsed, centuries ago.
Right.
Yeah, so it's all just wind and, like, storms and lightning, and the beasts there mirror that, because you have, like, the beasts are lightning based. They are the Abhorrent Beast can cause these, like, it's almost like it's using Storm Ruler on you. It, like, shoots this sort of, like, whirlwind that knocks you into the air if it hits you.
Mm-hmm.
And Archibald and the Spark Hunters became, and also a Reverend Izzy, kind of became obsessed with the way that these beasts could generate electricity, and they started experimenting with them. Well, Izzy doesn't seem interested in the electricity, but just became interested in, like, harnessing the power of these beasts. And, like, yeah, this seems to have happened before Yharnam went to shit. So I guess, like, I think what happened is they must have found, like, the ruins of Lauren. Surmised that, because they outright say, like, on the Lauren chalices, people went to Lauren and realized that the beast plague had hit them as well, and they had been trying to cure it, and it was like what was happening in Yharnam. So I think the idea is that they went to the ruins of Lauren and were, like, investigating, trying to figure out, okay, Lauren fell as a result of what's happening in Yharnam. Now, what can we learn from the ruins of Lauren? And that's probably what led to them investigating the Dark Beasts.
Okay, that's cool. Thank you. Did we even talk about Archibald?
Archibald's not in the game.
Really? Are you testing me right now?
Archibald is not in the game.
Half the shit is not in the game!
Yes.
We still talk about it?
That's all we know about Archibald.
Oh my god. No. Richie, tell me about Archibald.
Archibald is a character who they came up with in an early draft of Bloodborne, and they removed him entirely, but they really liked the name Archibald. So later on, they used it on a character who you'll never meet. Then 3 years later, you talked about it with Sana, and you laughed too much.
And people were very upset about it.
Yes, it's the opposite of this channel's audience.
Yeah. But even in this channel, I really appreciate everyone here, because even sometimes I get a comment where it's like, not very nice, but it's usually like, I'll still listen to your podcast even though I don't like them.
What was the one that was like, I find Richard interesting in spite of his co-host?
Oh yeah, that's it. Oh yeah. There's a couple of those. At some point, somebody was like, Oh, maybe I can find it. Wait. Oh, this is a good one. Yesterday, we went to the mall, and there's a little store that opened there, and it's like a Japanese type store, and they had Pokies. And green tea Pokies are just so amazing, and I love them so much, and I got a box.
Oh, do you mean like Pocky? The
sticks dipped in chocolate.
Yeah, Pocky, yeah. Everyone I know says Pocky.
Oh, I don't know. I've never seen it pronounced in real life.
They sell it at the supermarket here, and it has a picture of a panda on it.
Oh my god!
This is how tired you are. You're just going.
No, I am. I think part of it is just like it's been getting really busy at work. So I think it's like carrying over to the weekend where I'm just like, not. My brain is like, no, Sin, I'd like to sleep and rest, and you wake up for 8 a.m. It's a Saturday. So my brain is like being very combative right now.
This is you as well. I'm just the chair going.
Did we talk about Archibald?
Well, I believe I said about 15 minutes ago. Archibald's not in the game, and he started yelling at me. Oh, hang on. I'll look up, like, indoor lightning. It does happen.
When I was little, I saw this documentary or something on lightning, and they said, I think, maybe I'm misremembering this, that like a ball of lightning can go into your house.
Yeah,
and, like,
ball lightning is weird.
Yeah, I've been like scared of that ever since. I close all my windows when there's like thunder and lightning. Like, what are you gonna do if it goes into your house? Do you like run away from it? Is it gonna chase you?
I don't know if it like is following you.
I feel like it would.
Do you think Pal is like, I don't know, it's 3 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay.
So now that I saved the podcast, Richie.
Now that you've saved the podcast,
we can do the outro.
Do you think it's more than that and you've saved podcasting itself? There were too many podcasts, they started dropping off. It was like, I don't know if this is feasible anymore, and then they all heard the Snack Covenant. They were like, yes.
I'd like to think so. Oh, and we have to mention someone during the episode.
The problem is that I think we've mentioned everyone we know, and now we're just, like, repeating ourselves.
That's okay.
This is episode 38? Like...
wait. Let me double check. And... Oh, yeah, you're good. Yes, it is 38. Yeah.
I think we've mentioned everyone. I can't think of anyone we haven't talked about yet.
So we can, like, mention them again. Well, no, actually. No, I'm keeping this for later. So I can tell them in person. Or maybe I should give you a little preview now, Richie. What do you say about that?
Is it Butchimus?
Well, remember how we did a really amazing podcast? That was one of the best podcasts we ever did on Australia.
Is it the one that's me making cat noises?
No, because that one, we didn't lose the audio. I mean, you didn't lose the audio for that one.
Yeah.
But remember the one about Australia that was really on topic and it was really good? And it was the best podcast we ever did? What happened to it?
Is that the one with Cal?
No, before that.
Oh, that one. The one that was lost.
Who lost it?
Well, I refuse to accept entirely the blame for that because I didn't make the computer crash. It just did.
Okay, well, in that podcast is where I mentioned Butchimus, and I give him this beautiful introduction and this beautiful thing about him, how awesome he is, and how his content is amazing. And you lose it.
Yeah. Well, no, I didn't, because I lost my half of the audio. You'll still have that.
But I can't just release my half.
You can release the part where you talk about Butchimus.
Okay, how about we just talk about Butchimus now, then?
Okay. What if I lose this and it turns out mentioning Butchimus is like the curse?
Oh no. The Butchimus curse.
So, I believe you want to mention Butchimus.
Yeah, I was lost in thought for a second.
Were you lost in thought? Did you just zone out?
I don't know, a little bit of both. Yeah, okay.
Because I'm just like, everything is a blur right now.
Okay, we can do this. We'll make it through this outro.
Okay.
So we'd like to mention Butchimus. His content is really amazing. He has a lot of Soulsborne stuff. He has Sekiro stuff. He has like fun videos. He has streams. He has lore. He has everything, and it's super well edited. And he's just like a really nice person and a really good human. And you should all check out his channel and stuff, and like and do whatever it is you kids do.
Yes, you should.
Yeah, and also, he's actually going to be on one of our Gaming in the Yeltsin Years podcasts, talking about Metal Gear 1, 2, and 3.
Well, the Metal Gear Solid, because Metal Gear is a separate series to Metal Gear Solid.
Oh, god damn it, Richie.